Oh, that's so precious.
There we go. There we are. We're all here. So when the information came up that you wanted people to sort of come forward to interview you, I was like immediately on the button, because it was just, there was a real resonance for me around the journey that you've had, and also the values that you talk about in just how you live actually day to day. About, it's not about building audiences and what have you, it's just about sharing what you know. And that's exactly where we come from as well as a team. So we're very, very much that. All of my team have got a personal connection to either autism or ADHD. They're either parenting or got a diagnosis themselves, or both, actually. And that means that we are very much keeping it real, and we've all highly professional backgrounds from very different places that all come in together. But our big passion is just about letting people realise that it's not scary and it's okay. And we've worked really hard to get rid of all the big words and the stuff that's really not helpful when you're dealing with a meltdown in the middle of the supermarket. You don't need a big word, you just need to know what to do. So for me, that just resonates with where you come from as well, that it's about sharing what you know, and eventually it helps people.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I just thought that message and you being able to share some of that journey with maybe our community would just be such a real gift. And so that's why I said it would be really cool to speak to you.
That's awesome. And I mean, here's the thing, like, I don't even think it's just okay to be neurodiverse. I think it's an enormous gift. And I
Oh
think
my God, yeah, absolutely.
it's totally a part of, you know, who I am and who, like, I always want to be. I'd never want to get rid of it.
No, we get a lot of trouble here sometimes where people will say, why do you want to label your children or label yourself? And it's like, we're not labeling our children. It's part of who they are, just like the color of their eyes. It's not like an add-on thing. It's just like, it's who we are. So I've got ADHD myself. All three of my kids have got a diagnosis. And it's never been about a label. It's about understanding who you are and being able to celebrate that. And yeah, it has its challenges and things every day. But with the right things in place, it shouldn't be a barrier.
Absolutely. And I mean, this is the thing, like, sometimes the label just helps you make sense of the way that you're wired, and also what is going to support and help you to thrive.
Absolutely. There's been a big movement here. I think we're starting to see the shift here in the UK more, funnily enough, in the employment and business sector around celebrating people with ND and seeing the skills that they have in the workplace. It's the school system that we're still struggling with a bit, but hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get there in the end.
Yes. Well, I mean, you know, there's the school system struggles with so much. And it's kind of why I've always chosen, like, kind of more alternate schools that do work better with, you know, sensitive children and doing it in a pace that's right for them, you know.
And allow.
But I wish it was available to everyone.
I quite agree. I mean, I think we've had so many families over the last 6 months here experience homeschool for the first time because of the pandemic situation. Some thinking, no, maybe this isn't for me at all. This is all just a bit stressful. I need to go. And others who've really welcomed that and seen their kids really relax and not be so stressed and overwhelmed from being put into this straight-jacketed system of what they perceive success being, instead of being able to look outside that, which I think so many of us as parents can see why that is just not, it's not okay anymore. You know, we can't
Absolutely
just follow in the same path. But so yeah, we've had some have gone back into school really well, and others not so well.
yeah
And parents who at the moment have been extremely overwhelmed and struggling, and I think sometimes not really quite sure what to do with that, because it can just be so hard.
Yeah, the schooling thing is tremendously hard. I think it's one of the I think it is hands down the most difficult uh, thing that it comes to parenting, because you want to find a safe container for your children to thrive. And weirdly, it's not easy to come by. We homeschooled for 3 years, and finally had 2 kids in school at the start of this year, and that lasted, of course, 6 weeks before quarantine hit. So we're back to homeschooling again, and I just wanted, to tell people as well, like, quarantine homeschooling is different from normal homeschooling, because you get to choose a whole bunch of different educational pathways and modalities with homeschooling and the way that you do it. And during quarantine schooling, usually we were, still working through our schools, and they want things submitted, they want things done a certain way. Homeschooling doesn't have to be like that at all. It is way more free flowing and way, way gentler. And so, like, we lasted like a week doing homeschooling through my kids' school, and I was like, look, guys, I appreciate everything you're doing, and I want you to know we're not going to do any of it. Like, we're going to just do homeschooling the way that works for us, because that's how we know, and that's how my kids will thrive the best.
Absolutely. There were some videos that we done certainly over the beginning of the shutdown here, and it was very much like, if it's too much like hard work, just don't do it. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, don't put yourselves and your kids under this stress. We've got a long way to go here, and it's just not. Your relationship with your children is far more important at the moment, especially because you're all living in each other's pockets all of a sudden as well. You just don't go there. There are other things to worry about at the moment. School will catch up with itself. So that was exactly the message that we went out with. It's just, it's not worth it to put.
It's really not.
No.
And we noticed as well, like, there was a difference between the kids that were like just kind of forced to just keep going with the way, even if it wasn't necessarily working. Whereas my kids, like, haven't had any issues with going back to school. They haven't had any emotional issues from quarantine whatsoever. They've just been like, cool, this is fine, this is great, like, because we put relationship first, their mental health first, and just tried to make the experience enjoyable for all of us.
Absolutely. And so, Leonie, from the courses that you run around, for women especially, I think, for people to look after themselves and have you got any tips and hits that you can give to our mums and our adults in that space that would really help them?
Sure. So first and foremost, like, I want you to know that there is so many ways for you to create abundance in the world, and you can do it without, like, while being neurodiverse. Your neurodiversity is a superpower, um, and it's a real gift, and you're very lucky to have it, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like that. It is absolutely a gift, especially in the business spaces. Like, let's face it, like, most of the successful entrepreneurs and business owners are absolutely neurodiverse. And the reason being is that they can see things in a slightly different way, or completely different way, than other people. And they kind of have a different mastery and connection of themselves, a connection to themselves. Um, so it can be really, really useful, to use those tools. And of course, it needs managing, like every superpower does. And I even talk about, like, my personal kryptonites, because, like, I know what's going to crush me in the business space, and that's usually things that require a lot of time and consistency, and a lot of emotion availability. Like, I can't do a huge amount of interviews. I have to really limit that kind of stuff. I can't do a lot of live in-person events, not that we want to in 2020. I just can't, because it's somehow my kryptonite. As much as I love doing it, it kind of breaks that part of me, a part of me, and burns me out very quickly. So it's just being really aware of who you are and building a business completely on those strengths. So for me, because I put my family first, because I put my self-care first, I have to. It means I only can work about maybe 10 hours a week. And therefore, I've had to build a business that basically works without me. And I don't have a large team because I hate managing staff. That is not one of my gifts. I used to have staff of like 25 people, and I'd thought, wow, this just sucks. This sucks so bad to have to deal with other people constantly. So I just have one part-time assistant, and it's great. It's absolutely perfect. And it means we can still do huge and incredible things, but we're just very discerning in the way that we do them. So like I want people to know that just because you have neurodiversity doesn't mean that you won't be successful or won't be able to create what you want. It's because of your neurodiversity that you will be able to create the kind of success and the business that you want. And it's going to be unique. Like there's not, like I struggle to find anyone who works as little as I do and does things in as kind of unique a way as I do and earns the amount that I do. Because a lot of neurotypicals have it in their heads that they have to do business in a certain way. And I'm like, I shall not.
What's the fun in that?
No, I'm not going to hustle for 70 hours a week. Surely, like I'm smarter than that.
I think when we talk a lot about, like you use your term kryptonite, and we talk about them being red things, and then there's green things which actually help calm you down, and talk a lot about you have to follow a red thing with a green thing.
I like that.
Don't do 6 red things in a week and then wonder why at the weekend you're having a major overwhelm with that. And that's the same for the kids as it is for the adults. It's no different. So my green things, funny, they're a lot to do with green. This is my kitchen, actually, my kitchen wall. But people think I've got a green screen behind me and there's going to be some like magic thing happen at some point. No, it's just my wall. Especially at this time of night, it's the best light in the house, which is why I sit down here. But I like being out in green space, and if I don't have that at least once or twice a week, that really starts to impact on me. And we also talk about, as much as the big stuff's really important as far as your self-care, you know, weekends away, all those things that people talk about all the time, it's also about little daily routines and finding little pockets of time every day that's consistent, that makes a really big difference. I always used to say, if mums had lunch breaks, we'd be on a bit of a win, but we don't get lunch breaks. We're usually trying to drink tea and feed kids and put the laundry in the washing machine all at the same time. So for me, mine is sort of 6 in the morning when nobody else is up, and I get to have a cup of tea and I'll do my planner, and I get a good 45 minutes, I would say, fingers crossed, without my son being up and charging around in his beautifully autism way at that time of the morning. But when I don't get that, I really miss it now. You know, it's become part of my, to be able to deal with the day. And so many of the people who are parenting and just adults all say, that's been quite transformational for them, just finding those little bits of time, not trying to plan great big bits, because they're the bits that help make it work.
That's very true. I do mine at the end of the day. So my kids, at a point, they were going to like Waldorf Steiner school, and they're very big on like putting your kids to bed early and making sure they get enough sleep, which is a bloody great thing. So my kids have had a bedtime of about 6:30, and I just haven't moved that. I've just never moved it. And they can read in their rooms, they can play together, they can hang out, they can do all the things, but like it's quiet time, and it means that the rest of the evening then is mine. And it's very lovely. So, and here's the thing, like I've had friends with teenagers like come over and stay at our house, and like, wow, your evenings are really nice. I'm like, I know. And they've gone back and instituted it with their teenagers. So, you know, with their teenagers, they say, okay, 7:30 is like into your own bedrooms for quiet time, like no screens, just, it gives them the opportunity to connect in with their soul as well. It's great for everyone.
Yeah, I agree with you. My middle son is the most severely impacted by diagnosis of mine. And Tom's 29. He's 24/7 care. He's the one of our children that's still at home with us. The other two have left home and got their own families and doing really, really well. But Tom's exactly the same. Tom goes up, he's up there now, he's above me actually now, under strict instructions not to come down and get snacks at 10:15 tonight, because there'll be so he may appear, you never know, he might just appear. But it gives Pete and I some time as well, which when our children were little, we never managed to achieve, just because of the level of challenge maybe that we had at getting any of them to sleep at all, quite frankly. So we've suddenly got this time that we never had, and Tom gets that time as well, because my argument is, if he was living in a place on his own, if he was able to do that, he'd be doing his own stuff at this time of the night. He wouldn't be hanging out with his mum and dad. Do you know what I mean? He'd be out doing his thing. So
it's true
that he gets that opportunity as well, actually. And I feel sometimes with the families that we work with, they need permission to be able to do that. But I need to beat them. I go, no, just, you're allowed. You're allowed some time to yourself, because it's really important. And we have a growing community of people with neurodiversity who are parenting. They were always there, they just didn't know they'd got ND, I think, to be honest. So it wasn't available to them to be diagnosed as children, so they're sort of coming into it late in life and helping them to be able to work that out too, and give themselves permission to just stop is quite a big thing.
Yeah, and like the permission to do parenting your way.
Absolutely.
For me, like I was, when my eldest kid was a baby, I, had no idea about my own neurodiversity. As a new mum, I just wanted to do the very best for my kids, of course. And so I very much prescribed to like attachment parenting. So co-sleeping and having baby on you constantly, and all that kind of stuff, like baby wearing. And it's fine as a concept, and if it works for you, great. However, for me as a neurodiverse person, I require my own personal bubble at nighttime in order to be able to recharge. And if I've got somebody else in that bubble, it does not work. It absolutely categorically does not work. And yeah, I did that for 2.5 years and I felt absolutely insane. I did not feel well at all. I was not okay. And it was only later when I realized, like, I'm neurodiverse and I also require that nighttime stuff in order to be able to recharge, to even face the day. So I handled number 2 baby like completely differently, and it was that much more of a gentler experience, because I realized, like, this is what I need in order to actually be able to survive. And so I just need to build that in, and I really need to not care about other people's thoughts about how this should work, and instead just do it in a way that really resonates with me and means that I can be the best mum I can be, but survive.
It was the same with me with my journey with my ADHD, because I wasn't diagnosed as a child. They wouldn't have thought a girl had got ADHD in the 60s. Do you know what I mean? They thought, my mum parented me very instinctively. It was very much she knew she got this girl who was charging around like a mad thing. So she threw me into every activity known to man. I think more for her own sanity, if I'm honest, necessarily anything to do with me. But it got me through school and got me an education, so I can't knock that. But it wasn't obviously until my children were going through their own diagnosis that I realised where I sat within that. And you do have to generate your own version of normal. It's our normal, nobody else's, and you can't go down that comparison route. And that's so much of the work that we do. And as an organisation, so many parents will say to us, well, whoever they hit on the team on the phone, it'll be, oh my God, someone who gets it. Because we're living and breathing it just the same as everybody else, and that's not to be underestimated. Finding your tribe is actually really quite important for that, and being, like I say, being given permission to that's okay. It's okay. You haven't got to do it the same as the person next door, or the same as the person that you stand next to in the school playground. You've got to do it your way, and it's okay.
Yeah, it really is. And also, like, everybody's got their own secret struggles. Like, I mean, this is the thing, like, you scroll on Instagram and you're like, wow, everyone's got clean houses. And for me, like, a clean house is not like it doesn't even feature anywhere in my priorities in life. It's not something I consider as an important thing whatsoever. And I've had a friend call my house as like calls the mood of my house warm, messy. And I just think, yeah, it is warm, messy.
It's
It's
fun.
comforting. And I'm not going to like rearrange my cells in order to be like an Instagrammable house. Like it's not going to happen. Like I'll do enough to function, but anything else, it's not a priority for me. So that's fine.
It again comes back again, isn't it, about what makes you feel steady and okay. If you were chasing around all day trying to make your perfect home look like the ones in the magazine, you wouldn't be okay, would you? So and it's the same with us here. It's just ridiculous. Ours is good enough is where we go with it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
good enough. It's okay. We do all right. And the kids were all happy and messy. And there was one night that Tom filled the kitchen with the foam from the fire extinguisher.
Oh, magical.
Well, it was. We had a big foam party. We had a whale of time. And I remember people like, oh my God, it was fine. We had a laugh. It was fine. It wasn't what I would have chosen to do that evening, but it wasn't the end of the world.
It is what it is. We get ourselves into these adventures.
So you have to run with it. You have to have a sense of humour, I think, as well. Otherwise, you go a little bit loopy. Well, I like about you. You're always really funny and jolly about everything that you do, and that just resonates with how we are, with how we support our families and everything. So yeah, if you didn't laugh about it, you'd go a bit mad, wouldn't you?
Well, it is, I mean, it is pretty bloody funny. So me and my husband have been together for 20 years now, and we, in some ways, are a little bit well, I don't know if it's codependent, but we're enmeshed because we're very used to working off each other's skills, and he's very good at kind of practical stuff, considering personal safety, just working out everything basically. And I'm very good at kind of giving him the confidence to be able to explore further outside of his comfort zone. And like I'm really calm in a crisis. Like if anything happens, like that's fine. Let's just work out what to do from here. It's fine. So we work really well together, and we've barely been apart for 20 years. However, I had to go on a trip without him for 3 days, and I thought, oh, sweet Jesus, like how is this going to work? Because he drives me everywhere. Like I can drive, but he still drives me everywhere. Like if we're going on planes, he's got all the itinerary. He's already mapped out what time he needs to leave and when. He's got the plan, like he's got the parking worked out, all of that stuff. And so I ended up having to build myself this kind of itinerary, like, and telling like spreadsheets of what times I need to leave where, because it just wouldn't occur to me otherwise. And I had to call him, I don't know, multiple times during it because I couldn't work out how to get out of a parking garage. I couldn't work out how to lock doors. I didn't know how to turn TVs on. I didn't know what to do because the toilet was making a funny sound. So he was just on call constantly. I'm like, I am stuck in a car park and I don't know how to get out. And he's like, right, okay, so this is what we do. So it's, it can be a real blessing to have somebody to work off in that way. And also, I laughed myself silly. I thought this is so funny. I can barely function as an adult in the real world, but it's fine. It's like, it's an adventure.
Yeah, I think having that person that you trust with yourself is actually critical in those situations. You know, it's not going to judge you if you phone up and go, I don't know how to get out of the car park.
Yeah, I can't see any exit. And he didn't even think it was, he just thought, right, okay, honey, all right. So what we're going to do here is like, cool, all right, great. Like, he's like, I want you to look for an arrow. Is there any arrows?
Yeah, and I think we all need that person who's just going to go, you'll be okay, it's fine. Don't panic.
Yeah.
We'll work it out. It'll be great.
Yeah.
So I'm conscious of the time with you, Leonie, because I know you wanted to do your half an hour, which is fab. So just to finish off, have you got 3 things that maybe you'd say to our families as far as being able to move forward with their beautiful neurodiverse families that they have?
So first and foremost, I just want you to like forego the idea that you should be anything but what you are. My family looks different to a lot of other families, and that's really fine. It's really fine. We have a very gentle, home-based life based on, ritual and routine, and it is lovely and it's gentle. And I remember talking to one of my mentors here at Boga years ago, and I just said, like, why is the world too much for me? Like, why can't I do all the things that everybody else can do? Why can't I like schedule out my calendar so much? Why can't I do all of these things? And she said, Leonie, have you ever thought it's not like you or that's the issue? It's just that this world is actually going too fast.
Right.
And that, there's a reason why anxiety and depression are through the roofs. There's a reason for all the environmental issues we're having. It's because we're going too fast and everyone feels rushed. It's just that in your particular body, you can't ignore it. You're not going to be able to just subsist on coffee and no sleep like everyone else. And I thought that was really useful. It's not me, it's just the speed of the world. And so I need to opt out from that. And the last thing is, like, for me personally, I found it really useful to use I have a digital calendar, but at the start of every week to have a physical planner to sit down and write down all of what I'm doing, and highlight it, put colors in so that my brain recognizes it's something that's going to happen. It means that I forget way less stuff. And it also means that I know, like, oh, that's really going to drain me. And I either need to cancel some of that or make sure that I've got a buttload of time built in afterwards to recover from it.
Red and green.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I use your planners. You see, I'm very good.
Oh, yay! The new ones are out now as well. Hello.
Yeah, I can't wait for my new one to come out. And you kindly donated the link for the community to have them as part of your gifts to the wider community this year. So we sent it all out with our newsletters, and I know loads of people really appreciated that. So that was really fabulous. So thank you so much for that. It meant a great deal to me to be able to share that with them.
That makes me so happy. I love, love, love that we get to support everyone in all those ways.
So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm going to turn the recording thing off now.
Oh, you're a joy, Annie. Thank you.
And